Hey everybody. I thought I would just take this opportunity, as I have just reached a milestone with my upcoming military science fiction pulp novel, Alpha Omega, take this opportunity to kind of lay out a little bit for you folks about what it is and what it's about. What's happened is I wrote this book over the last several years, and the option on it was taken by another publisher that I don't normally go with. And so I'm very excited about that because it's kind of cool to have somebody new, interested in wanting to publish your stuff. And so I sent it in, but they publish quite a few books, and so some time has gone by while it worked its way up the queue. And in the meantime, they had recently had it copy edited and formatted and everything for publication. And so they sent me the final galley proof where I go through and make sure everything is, the way I think it should be after they've done that. And so I found a few, little things, mostly my fault, to do with just little slight typographical errors that, as the author I would more likely catch than somebody that wasn't as familiar reading it. So I've just made all the final corrections to the proof and sent it back into them. And we are now just a couple of matter of weeks away from it being published. So I figured to kind of get to whet people's appetite for it, because I think a lot of you are really going to enjoy this one. I'm very happy about it. I thought I would talk a little bit about it and explain to you why you might enjoy it and why you might be interested in it and looking for it when it comes out. And of course, this is a Patreon-only video. That's my intention. And so as a patron, you automatically either get a discount, or if you're one of the top level patrons, you can even get it for free. Well, I have to think that one through, because actually this is not a White Rocket book, and it's very much simpler for me to provide free books, as I do occasionally, that come from White Rocket. This is coming from another publisher, and to get copies myself, I guess I should have thought this through a little bit more. I have no notes here. This is all off the top of my head. I just wanted to kind of do a stream of consciousness discussion with you guys about it. But what I'm realizing is, because this book is coming from another publisher, my cost to get copies from them will be considerably higher than what I normally pay. And so as a consequence, I will certainly provide discounted copies, but free copies are going to be difficult because it'll run fairly expensive. But if you are interested, once you've seen this and once the book comes out, just contact me and we will figure out how to get you a copy. And I guarantee you I'll do the best for you I possibly can. Okay. So here's the deal. My science fiction writing generally is more space opera, and that means kind of like more like Star Wars, like big, cosmic, across the galaxy, aliens and all kinds of stuff. The big cinematic in a big way type of science fiction, which is often not as realistic, right? It's more about the action and adventure and the character drama and all that, but it's not more down to earth, gritty. And I want to say realistic because it's science fiction, but in general, but it's usually more grandiose. If you were to compare it to an existing franchise, most of my work would be more in the Star Wars realm, with people zipping around across the galaxy, planets to planets, like they're taking a bus across town. This book, though, is more what I would call near future military pulp. In other words, it's more along the lines of like a Space 1999 or The Expanse, where it's, just a few decades or a century in the future. Mankind is out in the solar system to a certain degree, but not all over the galaxy. Okay, and the characters are more recognizable as contemporary characters. The setting is more limited. Takes a lot longer to go places. Okay, there's certain limitations. And, there's things you can use in a story like that. When there's limitations can be good because it forces you to fit your story and your characters within that box. So, in an interesting way, in a fun way. So, the setting for this book, Alpha Omega, is humans have found a wormhole from somewhere in our solar system to somewhere in the Alpha Centauri star system area. It's still not instantaneous travel. It takes, I think, 2 months to get from Earth to the entrance to the wormhole in a standard spacecraft of about 100 years from now. In fact, I believe most of this story takes place in 2098. So it's, just inside of a century, from 80 years from now, give or take. So it takes about 2 months for a spacecraft to get from Earth to the wormhole entrance. And then once you go through the wormhole, which takes a matter of days, weeks, I forget, then it takes another 2 months to get from the wormhole exit to the location where we have colonized in the Alpha Centauri system. So you've got a lag of months in travel between Earth and Alpha Centauri. And even if you want to communicate, radio-type communications cannot travel through the wormhole. So what they do is they have these relays set up at like robotic automated relay spacecraft, little, tiny little things the size of like a computer. They have them set up at each end of the wormhole, and so you send your communication signal, video, radio, whatever, to the relay little ship, again the size of like a suitcase or something, and it would then, it's like a mailman, it's like the Pony Express. It gathers up all the digital communications, and then it launches itself through the wormhole, and when it comes out the other end, it beams all the recorded signals to Earth. So you still have, but it takes, I believe it's a month for it to transit. So like, for example, if you wanted to send a signal from Alpha Centauri to Earth and then get the response, it's a 2-month wait. You send the signal to your little relay, it takes a month to go through the wormhole and send it to Earth. If they instantaneously reply, it then takes another month to come back through the wormhole and send the signal back. So 2 months is the absolute minimum amount of time to communicate with Earth. Okay, where in Alpha Centauri is our base? Alpha Centauri is actually 3 stars. 2 of them are similar to our sun. So Alpha Centauri A is the one most similar to our sun. And so in my story, in Alpha Omega, there is a gas giant named Chiron, and most of the names in this book are named after centaurs. That seemed to make sense, right? So there's a gas giant orbiting Chiron. Chiron is the gas giant orbiting Alpha Centauri A, and there is an Earth-sized moon orbiting that gas giant. So if you'd imagine, like in the first Star Wars movie, there's Yavin, right, and which is the big gas giant, and then the Rebel base was on Yavin 4, I believe. Kind of the equivalent of Jupiter, and like the base is on Ganymede, okay, or something like that. So, or Callisto or Europa. So Earth has found a habitable valley on this moon of Chiron. The moon is called Amphion, these are all centaur names. So there's a habitable river valley. The rest of Amphion is barren, but there's a deep river valley where there's an atmosphere and water and plants growing, and that's where we build Alpha Base. And it's a thriving community of scientists and some military people, but not much, mostly scientists and so forth, studying this base. So that's the situation. The setup of this particular story, with no spoilers at all, but just again to whet your appetite, the setup of this particular story is that Earth has just discovered another wormhole there that goes even deeper into the galaxy, and they think there's a possibly habitable planet way down the other end of that wormhole that they call the pipeline. Okay, so there's a big ship with lots of frozen people on board that's preparing to leave Earth. It's going to go through the first wormhole and come to Alpha Centauri and visit Amphion. And then when it leaves Alpha Base at Amphion, it's going to go down the pipeline to this uninhabited, unexplored planet at the other end of the pipeline. Well, the main character of this book is named Tommy Davis. He's a general in the sort of United States component of the UN government that controls space travel. And he and his strike force, they have reason to think that there's some kind of a conspiracy going on involving, to some degree, the Russian consortium, the Russian part of the government. And so what Davis decides to do is he and his top officers, they need to get to the Alpha base on Amphion, on Alpha Centauri, ahead of the big exploration ship, and make sure that the conspiracy doesn't take hold. So they have to find a way to get to Alpha Centauri before this ship does. And they have to make sure that when this conspiracy kicks off at Alpha Centauri, they are prepared to deal with it. The problem is there's a secret cabal already on Amphion at Alpha Centauri working for part of the conspiracy. And the problem, too, is the scientists and the military people that are already part of Base Alpha on Amphion, they don't know anything about this conspiracy. All they know is this military crowd show up and want to start giving orders, and these scientists don't like that, and they resist because they don't fully understand that these people are here to help them, right? So you basically have multiple groups antagonistic toward each other or trying to help each other, and it's a race against time for our protagonist, General Davis and his men, to somehow convince these scientists that it's for their own good to help him and to work with him, and to somehow find a way to stand up to this conspiracy, which turns out to be much more formidable in military terms and in like occupation, hidden, terms than anybody would have guessed. Okay, so that's the basic setup of the story. There's a number of characters that you'll meet along the way. There's the local security chief, Manuel Acevedo. Kind of need to get him on your side, right? There's the local military commander, Major Miyoko Kawase of the Japanese consortium, and she's there trying to look after these scientists and very dubious of what this American general is all about when he shows up. And, she, in her mind, she's perfectly reasonable to be, like, very suspicious. Like, what's this guy doing? There's a Russian colonization commissioner already on Alpha. Is he part of the conspiracy? Because not all the Russians are. It's not like the Russians are all bad guys. There's a conspiracy mostly within the Russian part of the government. And so, is he good? Is he bad? We don't know yet. There are several other characters. You get to know quite a few of the members of the strike force, and I like them a lot. There's a demolitions guy. There's like the right-hand man of the general. There's who's Colonel McQuaid. There's and then there's the equipment. And I had a lot of fun with the industrial and military equipment that they use, because again, everything is named after centaurs, and I kind of expanded that a little bit for general Greek mythology. So the main flying vehicles they use are like vector thrust, like a Harrier jump jet. They use engines and vectored thrust to lift off. But they're like the equivalent of big industrial heavy helicopters. So you have the pilots who fly these big industrial craft. They're called centaurs, of course. There's the Pegasus smaller shuttles that are passenger shuttles. And then somewhere on the drawing board was the idea, apparently, that they were going to build these Medusa fighter craft that will be super advanced atmospheric and space fighter craft. But those supposedly have never been built. So what's this strange bogey that keeps appearing on the Alphan's radars? And then there's like the little Griffin buggies they drive around the valley. And one of my other favorite characters that I have to mention is Professor Khan. You need like the main scientist person, and Professor Khan his nickname is the smartest man on the moon. He's the guy that knows how to run every system on Alpha, keep everybody alive, keep all the food production, the hydroponics and everything, the agriculture going. Keep all the weapons up and running, keep all the scientific stuff up and running, and so he is absolutely vital. And so General Davis has to get him over to his side. But will this really brilliant scientist believe this military man when he says you need to just blindly trust me, you know. So there's a lot of really fun interaction between the civilians, the scientists, and the military folks trying to figure out who to trust, who can help, who's part of the conspiracy. There's a mystery bound up in it. And then what becomes of everybody when spacecraft start coming through that wormhole and appearing in the skies above Alpha Base. All right. So that's not really a spoiler-filled discussion. I think that's just the basic setup of who's who and what's sort of going on. I think you'll really like this book a lot. I will let everybody know as soon as it's available. It's coming from Prose Press. They've published some of my short stories before, but this is the first time they've ever published one of my novels, so I'm very excited. And the cover art that I've seen, if they use what I've seen, I really love it. I love the way the cover looks. Beautiful, beautiful art. So when I get a chance, I will post that here for you guys as soon as they send me a copy that I'm able to share with anybody. Okay, so it's called Alpha Omega by me, coming from Prose Press, probably in, let's see, I'm recording this on May 8th, so it'll probably be out in June. And again, I'll let you know when it's out. And for those of you here for the football content, John and I are going to work on some more, we're working on some more We Believed episodes. We got to do the Tuberville era next, 2 episodes on that. So you'll get about 3 to 4 hours of Tuberville. And we're also going to work on some video stuff, maybe talking about Auburn football as well. And I've got some more sci-fi, movie, TV, book content coming as well. So I'm really going to make a push this summer to get a lot more stuff up on the Patreon page for you guys beyond just the stuff you already, you know, get through the podcasts and so forth. So by all means, contact me if you have other suggestions of things you'd like to see here or hear on our podcasts or otherwise receive. Just let me know. Right? Don't get frustrated and leave. I want to provide whatever you guys want. So so get in contact. Send me an email, vplexico@gmail.com, or contact John, and we will be sure. Leave a comment here, and it'll let me know. Patreon lets me know when I get comments, and I can reply back. So, all right. That's good enough for today. We'll see you guys later. I hope you enjoy Alpha Omega, and we'll talk to you soon.